Great. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd session of the online Optom Learning Series. And today we have with us Optom Shama Shah. She has done her bachelor's at Lotus College of Optometry, and she's also a master's degree holder from the Chitkara University. Currently, she is a senior consultant optometrist at the Srimad Rajchandra Hospital District Early Interventional Center DEIC at Dharampur, Gujarat, India. And she's also a trainer for that particular center. Her work expertise includes working extensively in special pediatric population and kids with cerebral visual impairment with a transdisciplinary approach to achieve their maximum functions in the remote of the South Gujarat. So today she's going to talk to us about the integral part of the early intervention, which is the vision. So go ahead, Shama.
All right. Thank you so much, Fakhruddin sir, and a very good afternoon to everyone here. I hope everyone is safe at home, and we may pray for the fast recovery of this COVID thing. Thank you all for joining in. Today, I would like to talk about vision as an integral part of early intervention. And early intervention, I mean to say, if the child is born, I think the intervention should start from day one. And as our ancestors have done so, the child is being taken care by the grandparents and the parents in the house with different kind of activities. So we'll discuss a bit about it. Today we'll go through the following things as the fundamental components of normal visual development and the milestones, home-based activities to improve them, early intervention, what is it and how to do it, and basic preparatory activities for intervention. I wanted to ask a question simple like that is vision same as sight? Do you find same thing or is it different? You can use your chat box, you can use it. I would recommend on the answer as follows. Sight is what you see with your eyes, the ability to see something clear, which is completely your eyeball used for it. All your different accommodation, conversions, and all binocular vision, etc. While what is vision? Vision could be interpreted as interpretation of what you see. So basically, it involves the brain along what you picture in your mind at times even before seeing it. Like we generally, we have an image in our mind and then we see something and we recognize, okay, this was it. So that's using your brain along. The ability to process what you see, and it can be improved with practice. So this is very important. We have to keep in mind it can be improved with practice, the neuroplasticity, etc. The ability to get information, that is what you do with what you see, a guiding mechanism in growth and development of learning. And vision is a learned process, so one can learn it anytime, anywhere. It's never to be stopped or never lose hope over vision, because we can always have vision increased in any child, be it a normal child or a disabled or a visual impaired child. We'll go about it further. What is the role of vision in development? So concluding the whole, it can be hence vision is a primary sense that infants and toddlers use to organize and learn about the world. Without continuous feedback from the information received through vision about social interactions and physical environment, it is difficult for a child to understand and relate what is his or her surroundings. So vision is the first component which will help the child to understand what is going on in the surroundings. All right. Now I would like to go ahead to what is vision as a master of all senses. So here we go about a whole chart. There are few components which will be developed through vision. Now we have awareness of the environment, learning by seeing things, moving freely in the locations, to identify sound source, to catch the object, and combining shapes, colors, functions, etc. of the things. So these are the daily living activities of a child or an infant which are being, raised through vision. If the vision is at proper stage, the activities will go normal. Obviously, you should not ignore the other disabilities like cerebral palsy, autism, etc. But vision as a particular thing, here we will discuss about how important it is. Next, we'll see the fundamental components of normal visual development. What are the different components which will be involved for the normal visual development? So we have learned about the different things like accommodation develops, persuades develop, saccades develop, etc. But what are the bases of those? So we'll discuss the base. Here we start with a whole group of things. So initially, the first stage is fixation. The child starts developing fixation from since birth up to 1 month. He achieves a complete normal fixation. So that's the first stage. Then you go ahead with localization, which is about 2 months. It completely develops. And there is tracking, which is developed with pursuit, saccades, and accommodation along. So it is around 3 months. The child completely develops a tracking phenomenon. Then you have eye contact. So once you have all the three bases of the functions like fixation, localization, and tracking, then the child can maintain an eye contact with the other person or the mother or the parent. Then it develops further into gaze shift, which is a minute, similar to persuade, but not smooth persuade. You can say it gross persuade because you are shifting your gaze from one object to other, but yet there is no smooth movement of it. Then it develops into self-awareness, that the child starts knowing his own body self, his own body in relation to space. It further develops to imitation because the child is now aware about his own body. He is able to imitate the others, whoever is in the surrounding, and that's imitation. Then further it goes ahead with eye-hand coordination. Because of imitation, the child starts learning how to do coordination of his own hands and body. So eye-hand coordination will be developed. And the last will be awareness of the environment. So how he is having awareness of all the things in the environment. So we'll go about to all these in detail with the activities, how to improve them. All right. Here we go with for the first fixation. So what is fixation? To maintain the child's attention on an object as long as possible. So if the child is looking at some object or the mother's face, maybe momentarily, that is in the initial days. But yet, if the child is developing and he may be around 2 months or 3 months, and yet he is not able to fixate on the mother or fixate on the object for a long time, that is a red flag. So in the whole process, I'll keep discussing the red flags, and I have also given in the reference a 1,000-day book, Journey of a Child for 1,000 Days, that includes all the red flags in it, which is very, very important and vital for us to know, because whenever we see children, they are developing, sometimes we feel that will develop soon or maybe a month later or so. But if they are beyond the normative, like if they are developing really late, then we have to look for the disability. It may develop into a disability. So those red flags we can discuss in the, they are completely discussed in the book, and I've given the reference. I'll keep discussing as follows. The next is how to, see if the child is fixating or not. So you can use a dark room concept wherein you get the child in a dark room, completely dim, completely dark. Then you increase the illumination of the room and start giving the child different objects to see. This is for the children who have very low fixation, like they can't even see in the normal light or something. You can begin the therapy or begin the intervention, getting them in a dark room, seeing a lit object or a bright object, and then getting them slowly, gradually into a dim lit room and then in the natural room. That will be a gradual process, and that will give the child the whole period to grow from dark to natural light. Then you have try variety of things, like we always have these colorful toys, etc. for the kids, but the variety of things maybe, hello, yeah, the variety of things I would say is anything in the house. It can be a normal toy, it can be small utensils which are not having sharp edges, or it can be anything which the child is, inclined to have it. So the child's preference is most important to see, and then begin with those things and slowly turn it towards the child, uh, so that the child gets a fixation of different things. in a row. Okay. If a child is interested to look at the face more than the object, now this is very often we have seen that children, they prefer the face, the visual scene of a 3D image instead of an object. So just begin doing that. Now keep the object close to your face. Start the child, let the child see your face first, and then slowly move this object or move your face out of the child's visual field and start making the child observe at the object. That will give the child an incentive that, okay, you are giving him something which he likes, and then slowly, gradually move him towards what we want him to see. All right. Next is different activities we can use. Here I have discussed a few in the images. Like you can use a torch with colored papers. That's very common and very easily available. A normal yellow light torch, or even if you don't have a yellow one, you can try a white light, but cover it with a gelatin paper of different colors and flash it over the different areas, not directly on the eye, but different areas around the child. So the child starts fixating at those. You can use these kind of charts or different chessboard patterns or bars or circular images for the child to observe. Then there are the normal evaluations which are done. They are based on the preferential looking. Again, the fixation comes into picture. So here Leah patterns are used for a day one old child. Like we are testing the child at day one for their visual acuity on grading scale. So you can try such patterns and ask the mother to create such patterns at home, and they can give these as a intervention for the child at home. Everything is not possible at the clinic. The child is not able to come every time to your clinic or your setup, but they can always do this every day in their house. So make sure that everything is being conveyed to the parent, so the child is not getting disoriented. Like he might be coming to your clinic for twice a week or thrice a week, but always make sure that the parents are the best teachers and best guidance for the child. So use them, utilize them for your treatment. Next is you can use different carpets or bases. Like if you see here, we have used a different colorful patterned floor mat for the child, so that he can, wherever he moves, even if he turns, he sees the colors. Then you can use different colored objects hanging in the hammock or wherever the child is sleeping, so that he starts seeing vertically, he starts seeing, observing upwards as well. All right. Next will be localization. Here we are looking for the child. It's the first sign of interest, of the child's interest in the environment. So now the child is locating. He's preferring one over the other. So he's locating an object. There is this is the precursor for reach and grasp activity that is going to be developed in future. Next, it is a first milestone demanding an active participation of the child with visual, auditory, and tactile senses. So here there are three senses which are coming into picture. So he's going to use all the three to locate one object, and that is simultaneously happening. Next, allow the child to participate actively in localization. Give physical guidance if needed, but let the child play actively in locating. Like you can use a normal thing where you can hide one of the favorite object of what child likes, and ask the child to look at that object first, and then ask the child to search it in the group of things. Here, make sure that you need to know that the child is having difficulty in locating lot of objects. Like if the child is having difficulty to observe his own favorite object which he likes, or favorite colored object, but if there is too much clumsiness or too many things on the table, or then the child doesn't respond. And if you reduce the clutter, the child may respond. That is a very important sign to note. This may be indicating the child has crowding phenomenon, like he doesn't have proper simultaneous viewing. So what happens is the child is performing well when there is less things in the environment as compared to more. So this is going to be your indication to the parents that they have to keep clutter-free environment around the child. And initially completely clutter-free, use white backgrounds, use reduced colors and bright colors more of, while gradually they can increase with one or two objects in the space and keep on increasing till the child is able to do it with a lot of objects. Next is localization of food, nipple bottle, etc. can be done during the feeding session. So this is very important. You have to inform the parent or especially the mothers, whenever they are doing the feeding session for the child, they can start making the child locate things. There's kangaroo mother baby, so you can ask them to do that as well. Create sounds by toys, rattles, and bells in different directions, and encourage the child to find the location of the sound. So the source of sound, where it is coming from. Throw light from different directions. Start with side-by-side tracking, that is horizontal tracking, because that's easier, and then proceed towards vertical tracking. Allow the child to play in dark room and suddenly pull off the curtain. Ask the child the direction of the light. All right. So he might locate the curtain or locate the window. So these are the activities you can try for the child to improve localization. The localization is developed by 2 months. You can keep. I'm having a table at the last. We can discuss that as well. Next is tracking. Tracking is develops coordinated eye movements and accommodation skills. So it is helpful for both accommodation and eye coordinated eye movements. Tracking helps to judge and anticipate the surrounding. Do not start tracking activities till the child is able to maintain fixation for few seconds. So first is you achieve fixation. If he is stable in that, then ask the child to follow the light or movement or eye tracking can be started. With side tracking followed by vertical. Now the toys or the activities, what you can do is you can use a normal car with a fluorescent light or LED light over it with sound system, and then ask the child to follow the car moving around in the room, or roll a coin. Bright balls can be used in the room to follow. Blow soap bubbles. Very important is soap bubbles are very easier to have it, and anyone can do it with it. You can use the soap bubbles to show the child in different gazes, like where the bubble is coming from. So he has a proper tracking along. You can use a row of serial lamps also, which are used in the Diwali or any festivals. The lit the lamps around the window still, or somewhere in the room. If you have a normal, table or something, you can just lit that area and ask the child to follow the tracking of the lit uh, lamps. So there are, consecutive lamps which are lit alternatively. Then you can use a disco ball, but I would advise both the lamp and the disco ball has to be taken into consideration only once the neurophysician has recommended, if the child is safe for it. And also avoid in the case of photosensitive epilepsy. So what we do is, in our general practice, we have a neurophysician's consultation done before we start the early intervention. So we always have a backup with the neurophysician, the pediatrician, about the child's status, so that we know that this child is having so and so issues, so we can consider them during a therapy. Next is fiber optic magic wands can be used. Paint a colorful stroke on your hand and make them follow by the child. You can use yo-yo balls as well. These are the different activities which you can try in the normal setup. Even if you don't have everything, you don't need, you can create your own and just begin with whatever you have. Just the whole rule of thumb is start the earliest and begin with whatever you have it. Next is eye contact. The precursor for basic communication is eye contact. So once the fixation and localization is achieved, the tracking is normal. The child will start now looking for, he gives eye contact to the parent or to the person calling him. Helps in drawing others' attention. It develops skills of imitation and social skills. Helps the child to establish a social and emotional bonding with the caregiver. So this is very important. If the eye contact is missing, we don't know what the child is actually in need of. And here, very important for us is to know that when a visually impaired child will come to us, or a cerebral visual impaired child will come to us, they might have a no eye contact, or even you can consider an autistic child. So the eye contact will be a significant thing to check for, and always you have to work on that to improve the eye contact. There's a lot of things are being spoken by eyes, not by mouth. Right? Activities you can involve is, the first thing which you have to keep in mind for eye contact is maintain the head position in the midline of the child's body. So then you can use the help of physiotherapist or occupational therapist available in your vicinity or in your practice, just ask them if the child has cerebral palsy or the child is suffering with any head tilt or head postural issues. Make sure that the head position is being maintained in the midline, and keep the eye level same as the eye level of the child to give normal activity for eye contact. Hold the child's face closer to your face. Use a lot of verbal cues because sometimes the eye contact is missing, so they can follow you through verbal cues, or even smell works into this place. Certain kids are very active with olfactory, so they might smell the person and know that this is not my mother, or this is someone whom I know. So for initially to enhance the eye contact, you can use different olfactory enhancements like using an essence or using a perfume for the mother or using certain things which the child likes. Then you can do play peekaboo games. You can use tone variations or intense facial expressions while talking for gaining the eye contact of the child, and keep repeating whenever the child takes time to respond. Okay. These are the activities which you can begin with a normal peekaboo, or you can wear mask and ask the child where are you, and he starts looking for you. Next is gaze shift. Your shifting of gaze helps us to avoid staring at someone. Like you cannot keep looking at someone and just keep talking. So shifting of gaze is a normal process happening around. It helps us to be alert and aware of the environment and notice the changes, so as to be prepared for any action. If there is a car moving around on the road and you're walking, the gaze shift helps you to anticipate and judge that there's some danger, and you stop. It helps the child to differentiate the picture from the background. So again, gaze shift will help you from differentiating. What happens in figure ground, if you know, there are a lot of images and you have to find out one image out of it. Here, your gaze shift will help you to recognize, okay, this is the contour, this is the boundary, and I'll see this is the object of my interest. Now, gaze shift indicates the initial development of depth perception. Very important to note. And gaze shift develops by 6 months. Okay, we'll be seeing the age milestones as well. Activities you can do is make the child shift his gaze on favorite toy from close to your face to sides. You can ask the make child sit in a triangle with two other children or two other adult, and ask him for verbal cues and physical prompts while the child looks alternatively at each other. Then you can play throw and catch and ask the child to follow the ball. Where is the ball going? You can play wall tapping with the torch lit on the wall. You can show the different colors like a normal gelatin paper of colored torch you can use and put it on the wall. Ask the child to follow the different colors. You can, if the child is able to understand the colors, ask the child to follow the particular color which you want. Or if he doesn't know the colors, you can ask the child to follow the light in the dark room. Then you have play the match the figures game. Like you have to shift your gaze from one figure to the other. You can do that even if you can draw something on a slate and draw something on the board and ask the child to match those figures. Then you have make the child learn to anticipate stimuli alternatively. So here you are going to do shine a torch on the on your face and in a dim light, then switch on the light and put off the torch, so the child is able to anticipate, okay, this is the face. That way you can play with the child. Next is self-awareness. The realization or awareness of own body part in relation to each other is called self-awareness. Here it helps to understand his own body being separate from others. So now the child is able to recognize his own self, the identity of him, and the body is different than the other's body, like it's having a different contour. Then you have knowing other people and how they feel about him is also being learned through self-awareness. Then how can he influence the world or the people by crying, talking, or using his hands? So at this stage, the child will start, mimicking his own need by showing tantrums or crying or seeking attention, etc. Now, the activities you can try here are blow air on his hands, feet, tickle over the body, etc. Give verbal cues while bathing or feeding or dressing the child. You can ask this all to be done by the mother. Brush over the body with different materials like soft, uh, you know, velvet brush, cotton ball, silk, etc. You can make the child feel of his body in a playful manner. So what you can do is ask the mother to get his own fingers, own toe to the mouth, and feel the body that this is my own body. Then massage the child with scented baby oils or talcum powder, and let him realize the difference in pressure. This is proprioception, different system which works all together with this pressure of our body. Then you have carry the baby around the house. Like you can ask, give the child different exposures through getting the child from balcony to the house, inside of the house or something like that. And you can use rhymes in rhythmatical movements like bouncing, rocking your lap, etc. Prop of a mirror can be used for the child, and it is works very well for the child to take the commands and mimic them. Right? These are the activities what you can try for self-awareness. Next is imitation. Imitation is the basis of language development. So it helps the child to communicate effectively, learn the socially accepted gestures and their meaning. Activities can involve, first of all, make sure that you add an incentive to imitate. Keep the conversation interesting with the child. Make the child, get some rewards at the end of imitating something or performing a task. You can involve storytelling by the mother or the grandparents, whoever is around the child 24/7. Like add making sounds of the animals, appropriate emotions related to it, and ask the child, how does the lion roar? So he responds roar. So that's the way you can start getting him mimic the things. Sing rhymes and songs with gestures. Activities in front of mirror are most rewarding. So that gives you a lot of, the child gets confidence that whatever he's doing is being appreciated, and that's right. So he continues further. Next is ask the child to express the gestures, express with gestures. So he can, share his own feelings with gestures. Like if he wants food, he can say, like with the gesture he can show, or if he wants water, he can just express that. Greet the child with hello or good morning and encourage him to imitate. Whenever the child is being met by people in the house, they can start greeting him, talking to him, involve him, and encourage him. These are the different types of activities which we see. Next is eye-hand coordination. It helps to develop self-help skills and prepares the child for activities of daily living. The realization of physical properties like temperature, texture, etc. is being by grasping, and that helps is being attained by eye-hand coordination. The development of fine motor skills is being the basis of eye-hand coordination. Precursor for cognitive development. Eye-hand coordination consists of different components like awareness of the hand, reaching, grasping, release, and bilateral coordination. So this is a very important component, which is again the proprioceptive system working in is involved. Now feel the contour of the face. So you can give activities where the child is, being feeling the contour of your face. So even a normal child, you can give this, and especially for the visually impaired or the CVI child, you can give this as an activity. We do it often with our mothers. The child is being given the hand close to the mother's face, and he feels the contour of the mother's face. And slowly we change the prop by getting the father. So then the father has beard, so he understands, okay, the one which has a rough skin around is the father, and the one which is smooth is the mother. So they can start anticipating that way. Then you have play with toys of different shapes, colors, and textures in hand. Bright nail paints and traditional henna or the mehndi helps to motivate the child to look at the hands. So you can apply those. We always ask our mothers to, put a lot of makeup, eye makeup, and put bindi on the forehead and come in the therapy session. So the child is able to, make sure that this is the mother, and he is able to see. This gives a lot of high contrast on the face. Then you have use finger puppets fixed on the chair as child's finger, clapping using both hands while singing rhymes. Playing building blocks will help for eye-hand coordination. And under supervision of parent or any guardian, you can give the child to play with the utensils without sharp edges. That also gives a lot of eye-hand coordination because you have, you know, the heaviness of the utensils, so the child starts having the grasp, the grip over the things. These are the activities which you can try for the child. Next is awareness of the environment. It helps the child to explore the environment effectively and more move around fearlessly. So once he is aware that the environment is my home, so now he knows that this is my room, this is the kitchen. So he keeps roaming around easily and fearlessly. What happens with the other kids who are having visual impairment, they don't know their surrounding. So what happens, they are insecure and they are not able to have confidence to move around fearlessly. So here the awareness of the environment is a mandatory thing. So for these kids, we can always develop the environment by using different senses, not vision, because the vision is impaired. So you can use sounds, you can use scented environment, perfumes, or some like olfactory can be enhanced over the vision, and then make the child aware of the environment. Then he can perform well. Next is helps the child to correlate himself with the surroundings. Now, the activities you can use is swings and hammocks can be used so that the child is having the space orientation for concepts about himself and the space around. Then you have child can touch and feel the different materials while eating and bathing, which can be rough, hard, smooth, soft, dry, sticky, etc. You can take the child in garden and parks frequently. While in the car or bus, you can ask the child to pay attention on the speeding vehicles on the road so that the child is following those. Then get him feel the experience of height by slides and seesaws, staircase, etc. Encourage the child to find the things if dropped down so as to locate in space. So here what you are asking is his favorite toy or anything in your hand which the child is interested in. Ask them to locate that in the space. So you leave it, drop it, and then the child has to figure out. That's a difficult task. Now, child performs best at home, so make sure that they are acquainted with the home atmosphere. These are different activities what you can try. These are the milestones. So we have completed the fundamental components which are there in the activities. Now, out of them, we'll just discuss the milestones, which age, what happens. So fixation, like as we discussed earlier, the staring of a light or a object and regards of a person for momentarily is all developed by 1 month. Then you have localization, which is locating a source of sound or turning your eye towards the direction of light, etc. by 2 months. And you have tracking, which is following. Again, tracking has persuades and circuits involved. So persuades develops by mainly 2 months and circuits a little bit, 2.5. So they start developing those simultaneously. Then you have eye contact, smiles at human faces, social smile, etc., which is developed by 3 months. So the tracking will help the child to have an eye contact with the other person. Next is self-awareness, looking at his own hands, etc. by 3 months. Tracking again comes for vertical tracking, which is by 3 months. Horizontal tracking is 2 months. Vertical is 3 months. You can note that. Next is eye-hand coordination, attempts to reach some object or etc. That is 4 months. So here the whole table goes on with the months and ages. You can keep this recorded in your, you can take a screenshot and keep it in your center or your place of work, and you can keep referring to it. So whenever you see a delay in the months, like it may be a delay of a month or two, that is fine. But if they are really back end, like if you see tracking which horizontally is at 2 months, and if the child is yet not tracking at 5 months, then he is a red flag child. You need to look for it and you need to start intervening. So always have a mindset of first observing and figuring out if the child is normal or delayed. And secondly, start intervention immediately. It means like you know the delay is there, immediately the same day or the next day you can call the child, ask the parents to come along, with the guardians or the people around in the house, and explain them and make sure that they understand to their own language, their local language. You can convey to them, and different activities which we discussed they can start at home. and come to the therapy centers, etc., whenever possible. Next is these are the 36 parameters. So here I have discussed about these components up to 36 months of the child. So like we say it is 1000 day, which is very critical for a child's growth. So from birth to 36 months. So whenever the child is born and up to 3 years, we consider that this child has to be like, if they are normal up to 3, they can grow normal. This is a very crucial period when we have to look for signs of delay or any other disability. Next, the need for early intervention. Now, as discussed, all the parameters which we discussed in the previous slides, those are the intervention strategies. Like you can begin for fixation, you can begin at this age and this activity, a localization for eye-hand coordination, etc. So these are the need of an early intervention, and especially for vision, if the child is coming, like you have a setup where you have only eye patients coming in, so you have to look for these three primary important categories is ROP, cerebral visual impairment, and refractive error. So these are the very, very common and very, very important parameters where you have to look for, because if the child is having ROP and he is not given early intervention at the right time, post lasers and post their treatment, then the child might turn blind, even if they are not, even if they have been treated for the lasers, because the child needs that early intervention. He was not given that in the normal process of his development. The same goes for CVIs. We see a lot of cerebral visual impairment children, and they are generally accompanied with other disabilities like cerebral palsy or ADHD, etc. So you have to look for them and start intervening with the other therapist, the need with the physiotherapist or occupational therapist or an early intervention specialist or a visually impaired child with their teachers and parents also. You have to involve them. Next is refractive error. As we know very well that myopia is right now on the verge of, coming up and everything. So you have to look for those signs earlier. This is what early intervention can do, the wonders, like the child can grow normal. Now, the preparatory activities, what you can give for early intervention is like make the child and the parent comfortable before they start any therapy. Always call the child by name. So name gives emphasis to the child that he's been called, and it on repetition the child recognizes his own self. Then let the person and the child knows very well to begin with the intervention. So you can start the intervention or therapy or play with the person whom the child regards more. So that will be easier for the child to transit. Then you have distractions should be minimum. Ensure safety and hygiene of all the materials used. Try to do all the activities along with daily routine of the child. Avoid forcing the child for any activity, like cooperation is a must and it benefits for your activity. Never, 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 please mention this, never lose hope for a child, because even if they are not showing interest or not having any improvement in the initial phase, but keep doing it, they will surely do it better later. Next is, though the child seems not understanding, inform the child what the activity is all about. Frequent repetition may be needed for the development of the child's skill. Remember, the age and the level of impairment will determine the rate at which the child learns. So again, the compliance of the child and also his level of impairment, how severe is he impaired or what is his age, not the gestational age, not the learning age, but the cognitive age. The child is 8-year-old, but his cognitive age is yet 4 years. You cannot expect him to do a task of 8-year-old child. So make sure that that is in your mind, and whenever you do the task, you perform accordingly. Perform activities with both when both are alert, of course, the child and you yourself. Be sensitive to the child's response. Every child has a different way of expressing their likes and dislikes, so consider them. They might cry, they might give you tantrums, they might show disinterest, they might just not be involved in the activity. That is also a sign of likes and dislikes. Remember to encourage and communicate with the child attempting a task. Do not prolong the sessions till the child is bored. Variety makes the child more involved, and provide physical assistance if the child is physically disabled or has physical problems. Next is talk softly with the infants before picking up or touching them. read the total body of the child for response and not just the eyes, but especially gentle in handling the children, because he does not have the visual cue for helping him prepare for the impeding contact. Let the child touch and explore all the materials before starting. Keep giving descriptions of all the items present in the environment. While moving the child from room to room, keep informing him about the place so he is acquainted to it, and seek advice of the professionals for the child who needs intervention further. So here I would again recommend on having a neurophysician's his report, consultation with the neurophysician beforehand, so that if the child is having convulsions or any other disability, he has to be known about it. Next is early intervention for visually impaired. This is little different than a normal child. So here visual impairment will help limit the child's opportunity to explore the world. So there they need unique instructions, modelings, and hands-on opportunities to make the sense of what the world is around. Early intervention is a critical service for children, so it is very much needed for the foundation of further learning. Early intervention system is a service and supports designed to help the families to care for the encourage the child development for their infants and toddlers, that is birth to 36 months, with disabilities. Here we have little more comprehensive things like they have to have a detailed assessment of a visually impaired child. What are the needs of the child and what are the parents' expectations? So you need to balance both. The child's need can be, he's not able to eat something, or he's malnourished, and the parents' expectation is he should eat on his own, which is not to be fulfilled right now, because right now the malnourishment is our priority. So you can ask the child, parents to feed the child as per the norms, but make sure that they are convinced that the child is not going to eat on his own right now. It may eventually grow and he might do it on his own. So you have to have a balance of the expectation of the parents and the need of the child. Start early intervention in the early intervention center or the child's home. Include teachers of the students, like who are those who have come later in their life. Include the teachers in the intervention team, so that you know what is happening with the child in the school, or how is he performing, and where are the problems being faced by the child. Note the developmental milestones. Very important to note is the developmental milestones of that child at that particular age. It's not the developmental milestones which we discussed earlier. It can be different for a visually impaired child, because his fixation might not develop, his localization might not come in, but he might be having a high hand coordination, because he might be feeling the object and or doing some task. So you have to note those. Then provide a variety of experiences. Provide tactually interesting objects. Reduce auditory and visual distractions, both crowding of auditory and vision. Talk to the child. Siblings are involved in the therapy sessions, so that the child starts growing up with them and mimic them. Create a consistent routine and transition, so the child is at peace or ease, that he knows that now I'm going to be doing this therapy, now I'm going to go into another room, etc. Encourage the child who is visually impaired to move on his own. And foster independence is very important, because we tend to do a lot of tasks for the visually impaired child instead of making the child to do on his own. So always have a competing task with the child, so you can do it along with the child but not for the child. So I would conclude with a take-home message that vision is vital for different areas of development, like motor, cognitive, social, play, and speech and language as well. Very important. We are actually vital people in this stream. Like, we have to work for all these developments. Thank you so much. I hope everyone is safe and at home. This is the reference of my hospital as well, and the mission where I'm working for. And the books, I have given the reference over here. While in this COVID time, I would ask everyone's help by donating some amount for the people around to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very
Hello.
much, Amma, for that very brief talk on the visual milestone development. I think it is very important as an eye care professional into primary eye care, where sometimes we are the ones seeing the kids first, so we must understand on what's happening and what's going on around and how can we help these kind of kids. So thanks a lot for your very detailed and insightful talk.
Thank you so
Let's
much
see
for
if
your
we have.
platform.
You're most welcome. Let's see if we have any questions. Anybody has any questions, please you can use the chat box. And whatever references and links what she has mentioned, we will be posting those links on the YouTube channel when we post the recorded session. So you may want to look at what they are doing and how they are helping kids at their particular center. So it's very important for us to know as well. Okay, so if there are any questions, please type it down. And as she also mentioned, please share one learning from today. So that's also we would like to hear from you. Okay, there's one question here. What about the congenital
Yeah.
abnormalities and how do we decide the treatment for that child?
All right. So the congenital abnormalities we generally get very soon from the child's pediatrician or ophthalmologist sending us that the child may have congenital cataract or glaucoma or some other coloboma, etc. Here we have to look for the first thing is the treatment of that particular thing. So as soon as possible, if once they are done with the treatment, you have to start intervening with the basic milestones. So now if the child is having a congenital cataract, say for example, then the post cataract, the first thing is you have to give the full prescription, start with the fixation and following of the light and objects because the child has not got enough accommodation into place. So now he has to look for that and then go about with the normal milestones growth. So you can go about with the process like eye contact and eye hand coordination, etc. Am I
Yeah.
okay?
I think you need to find the cause and then do that. How do we do intervention for kids who have hypoxic condition, like when there is no light perception?
Yes, very important. We see a lot of cases like HIE and hypoxic issues in our NICU when they are referred for the early intervention center. Now, what happens is in these cases, the first and primary thing is they have to have a normal, posture and normal position so that they can breathe normally. And so, for this reason, we have involvement of our occupational therapist and the physiotherapist along. They give a normal position for us to do treatment further. And in these cases, we begin with visual. Intervention with normal lights, but they're not bright lights, and you can start in dim and dark rooms so that the child is appreciating a bit of light as well. Make sure that none of the child is going to be blind in these cases. So they will have some other sort of vision. So here you have to utilize that back end vision. And there are different systems in the brain where you have uh, s- uh, the pathways having visual inputs going to the cortical part, and there are certain through the dorsal and the ventral stream as well. So mirror viewing, or you can try something like they are appreciating the texture of the object or tactile. You can use the proprioception, you can use the vestibular system to enhance the child's vision. So slowly the vision might come into picture. At least we can make them functional.
Okay. And any effective treatment for nystagmus in terms of therapies?
Well, I have tried a lot of my nystagmus patients with prisms, yoke prisms to be precise, and I have seen improvements in them. They have really improved well, and the consistency level has also been far better than other system improvements or other treatments. But I don't have any review articles or any research to back it, so I wouldn't ask you to follow the trend, but you can definitely try for a child with nystagmus and neoprisms. They generally have a bit of strabismus along, so you can decide the base accordingly. And if they don't have any strabismus, they are pure nystagmus child, then you can always try for the particular gaze where you want to the child to see. So if the nystagmus is null zone is having into the downward gaze, so you can give a prism with gaze up or something like where you have to give the child where you want to direct the child. So I think your prisms really work well for this like this.
Okay, and let me just see if there are any other question. Okay, how does textural activities helps to improve vision?
All right. So there are vision that is the basis of a normal system. We have these five senses: touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. Based on these, there are three more very vital systems which work into our bodies. That is vestibular system, the proprioception system, and the cognition. So here, tactile system. So here, proprioception is the system where you have a texture, the temperature being felt by the body, and the sense of the world is being made through that. When the child is a visually impaired child, especially, is given a texture or a textually, accepted instrument or an object, the child starts appreciating that, and that system activates the visual cortex. So now the child is able to, from the frontal lobe, he is now knowing that this is in the library, this kind of a texture is something which I like or something which I dislike. And then the child starts responding accordingly in future. So that's the way they make their own, vision in their brain.
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of very natural, right? So whatever they like,
yes.
they will normally go along with it. So we just need to make sure what is likelihood of that particular age and all that. So yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I think we have covered most of the questions, and thank you so much for giving us this talk and briefing us about the development specifically. And thanks from the team OOLS for taking out the time.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
everyone, for joining in, and thank you, OLS, this wonderful platform.
You're,
I would
you're
also
most
recommend,
welcome.
if you wish to, I have started a campaign for generating donations for the pandemic. So if you can help us out, you can definitely donate over here. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. I have also pasted feedback form link. Please do give us your valuable feedback. And before we leave, let me just share my screen and introduce you to our speaker for tomorrow. So again, from today's talk, we have learned on the milestones and everything on how different milestones will be achieved. The next important thing, I think most of it was covered by our today's speaker, but we have Professor Bruce again, who will be joining us tomorrow, and he will discuss more of the practical clinical examination of the younger kids and special need kids. So he'll take more time on explaining about certain tests, what you can do in a short duration of time and get more beneficial outcomes, because we understand that kids attention span and all that is very limited. So he is going to brief us his strategies on how to perform a practical clinical examination in young kids and kids with special needs. So please join in tomorrow. The timings are 8 p.m. in the evening Indian time and 10:30 late evening Malaysian time. Until then, stay home, stay safe, and see you all again tomorrow. Bye.